Oh boy, today we get to talk about the First Berserker Khazan, which is an upcoming Souls-like with a couple of unique twists to it that I find interesting. You know, this is the era of Souls-likes. I believe that Smash Mouth said it best when they said the Souls-likes start coming and they don't stop coming. This is a slightly different one. This is not some exclusive preview of some sort. You can go ahead and play the demo for yourself on Steam. It's somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. And I would say it's pretty good. I would say it's worth checking out. Now, if that's why you clicked on this video, you can make up your own mind, but I assume that you did to hear my impressions of it. So we're gonna jump into that. Hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Let's get into it. So First Berserker takes place in the Dungeon Fighter Online universe, which I really only know from stuff like DNF Duel. I'm not very familiar with it, but I don't think it really matters. It's just a well-established universe, so a lot of the aesthetics, the designs, the lore, I guess, of things has already been established for this game, which really just means that they have like something to already pull from, which is cool. It shows that a lot of these designs and things are very refined overall, but you don't really need to know anything or care, I believe. But it is, at its core, a Souls-like that blends a character action game with a Souls-like in a very interesting half and half way that I really like. There's a very wide spectrum of like character action slash Souls-likes out there. I personally feel like it's very in the character action department. So if you're navigating Souls-likes and you're close to Sekiro, almost at Neo, that's where the First Berserker is going to be. Very much in the direction of character action, a lot of different combos, a lot of different button presses, a lot of mechanical execution to pull off those combos, like a series of different inputs that are correctly done and charged and spaced in some cases in order to pull it off. So you're going to be pressing light attack into charged light attack, into charged heavy attack, into left bumper, into a special attack to do something that consumes a resource, and you're also going to stop to parry something, and if you parry you get an empowered version, all that jazz. Now straight up, I think that at that point you'll know if you're really going to enjoy this game or not. It's really that simple. Do you want something that is essentially a Souls-like in pretty much every regard, from bonfires and leveling up and equipment and the way that equipment scales and the way that you navigate the world? For example, in this game, you cannot jump at all. There's nothing regarding jumping like maneuverability. You just kind of walk through paths and sometimes drop from ledges and go from combat area to combat area. And then you find shortcuts that connect the previous bonfire. Oh, it's just like Dark Souls. So you, at that point, kind of know if this is going to be for you. The big differences here, obviously, combat, the speed of combat, and the way that everything around combat works. So in the demo, you have access to 3 different weapons, as far as I know. You could think of them as weapon categories in a sense. And every weapon type has their own skill tree that you can choose to focus on different elements of that skill tree in order to kind of play the game more in a certain direction than another. But if you were to fill out the entire skill tree of a weapon, it would just be a very fast-paced, very engaging character action game. What I mean when I say you can tailor the game, especially at the start, towards what you want, is that you will see that you can put points into improving your parry and your guard, for example. Every weapon can guard. There's no shields in this game. You just guard using your stamina, and if you perfect parry, it consumes less stamina, and then you can upgrade stuff so that it consumes more of the enemy's stamina or directly does damage to them or leads to special attacks if you parry. But if that's not your playstyle, you can put points into the dodging section of the skill tree, and that will allow you to have special attacks from your dodges or have your dodges consume less stamina, things like that. The same with special parts of a weapon and with the light attacks and with the heavy attack. Now, some of those attacks consume a special resource called spirit that you generate by attacking people. And that spirit can be used for certain special attacks that require other combinations of buttons to execute, and and sometimes have requirements before that, like you have to parry first or something like that. Or just by pressing the left trigger, you have a ranged option by throwing a javelin, but that consumes spirit and that can also be upgraded. So you have a Souls-like and you collect souls and you level up at bonfires and you explore things and then you fight enemies, but the combat is all focused on these skill trees and these weapons and their combos. So that's what's really going to set this game apart for you if you're a fan of Souls-likes. Now, I have a lot of questions about how the game will be later on, because that whole just kind of running down hallways and attacking enemies and there's no jumping, a lot of the level design so far seems very basic, but at the same time, this is the beginning of the game in the demo. It is something that transfers directly to the final game if you wish. So you don't normally expect to see the craziest things in the world in a tutorial, but just from what we've seen so far, I'm curious to see how the level design evolves, or if it's just going to be a series of running through environments that are very pretty, slightly different hallways that just lead to arenas to fight. However, the most important part here, the thing that I can't lie about, is that the fighting is really fun. To put it into actual practical terms of what I played in this demo and how much I enjoyed it, this is the type of combat that if there were a bloody palace option like in Devil May Cry, just an arena where you constantly fight respawning enemies, I would play that. It's really that good. It's very satisfying. It's just very basic timing of parries and dodges minigames, sometimes controlling multiple enemies, but the execution of the weapons and the satisfaction of hitting with them, the graphical effects, the sound effects, the way that the impact and the weight of the weapons is conveyed, and the speed of combat overall is something that I found very enjoyable in the 3 hours I played of Kazan. When the demo finished, I was ready to just keep playing. Like straight up, if the game were out, by the time I finished that demo, I would have just sat down and probably played through a lot of the game. I imagine it's not something you can beat in a sitting. I'm not sure about that, but it's that type of energy that was just like, yeah, this is my jam. I get where you're going with this, and I really enjoy it. And so I have some high hopes for Kazan because it is trying to fill a very specific niche in a Souls-like of this kind of character action RPG, but with a lot of focus on that action element, just being very fast-paced, very combo heavy, very mechanical execution heavy, and I really enjoy those types of games. And the other big thing that sets it apart, of course, is its graphical presentation, which I think is definitely going to be a you either love it or you hate it type of deal. You either think that this is just like some very anime style art that is not for you, or you like it, or you're currently watching season 2 of Solo Leveling and you saw this and you're like, yeah, let's go, isekai time type stuff, and you're gonna enjoy it. I normally really enjoy heavily stylized games. I like games that look like this in a way. For example, Tales of Arise is a game I think looks amazing. I really like Xenoblade, which kind of skews in that direction as well, maybe more sci-fi in a sense. So far, I like the way Kazan looks. It looks maybe a little bit too clean for me at times. Like Kazan himself, the main character, it's like you look at his face and he just kind of looks like a perfect model, like perfect face, and then his entire body is just like full of cuts, and that's kind of weird. But the important stuff is the weapons look awesome. The gear seems to look very cool, and that's an important part of a game like this is, you know, fashion Souls. And that final boss, the Blade Phantom, which just honestly reminds me a lot of like Nightmare from Soul Calibur. That's a super cool design, like the way he moves and attacks and the arena you fight him in and the eyes everywhere on the armor. Like there's some stuff to really enjoy here. And I'm curious to see how the game will look in all of the different areas as you progress through it. So I'm definitely very curious about the first Berserker Khazan. And to wrap up this video, the part about it that makes me feel better looking towards it is that it feels very concentrated on what it wants to do. One of the things I find really common to be a problem in Souls-likes is that while they're looking to define what they are, as they are looking to see what differentiates them from their inspiration. Sometimes they either don't do anything at all, or in that attempt, they end up doing something that's misguided and fundamentally wrong. They try to do a bunch of different things. They try to implement different gimmicks to change parts of the formula that end up not working. A game like Lords of the Fallen 2023 is a great example of that. It has these gimmicks with the world switching. It has its incredibly unique and interesting aesthetic, but then at the end of the day, when it came to the combat of the game, it just didn't provide the satisfaction, at least upon release. I've heard it's better now, but I haven't gone back to check. That made it fall basically flat. This is what made Lies of P such an interesting game, because it knew exactly what it wanted to be, which is to not stray very far from the From Software formula, and that worked out fantastic for them. Kazan doesn't seem to be playing around. Kazan seems to know that it wants to focus 100% on combat, on the progression of your skill points, on challenging you in the combat department, right? You're not going to have jumping puzzles, you're not going to have beam crossing, you're not going to be going underwater. It doesn't look like there's going to be like open world sections. It's not trying to do any of that like a Stellar Blade kind of did, which I thought did all of that great. Instead, this is a combat arena. That's what they're going for. Boom, you fight in the combat arenas, and that combat is satisfying. And that to me means that maybe it might be lacking in other things when it releases, but if it manages to nail that, it's going to find an audience of people that are going to really enjoy it. And I think I'm among those. I believe it's coming out around the middle of March. I did request review code for the game, so if this video piqued your interest, you enjoy the demo, and you want to hear my thoughts on the final game to see if it ends up being what I expect or what you expect, or if it isn't going to be worth your time or money, remember to subscribe, because I will 100% try and have that review out before the game is out. Dumb thing to say, but like not going to be for everyone. Not every fan of Souls-likes is going to enjoy this. This was a bit of a smaller video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, remember, hit the like button. Always helps out. And a special thanks to the patrons up on the $1 patron wall who support everything that I do. I've been Mug. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of the day, and I'll see you again very soon.